Baker Mayfield is traded to the Carolina Panthers.
Is that what we're talking about right now?
Yes.
Okay.
They acquired the former number 1 overall pick for a 2024 conditional 5th-round pick. The Browns will pay Baker $10.5 million of his salary, Panthers $5 million, and Mayfield agreed to trim $3.5 million of his salary. Now, in April, Robbie Anderson responded to an Instagram post of the Panthers potentially getting Baker with no when he learned Baker might be his quarterback. Now Baker is his quarterback.
Though, right? That was a few months ago.
Yeah, April. Well, this fixed the Panthers' quarterback problem. Now, Joel on Twitter, you thought this was a good move. Drew, you couldn't believe people were defending Baker Mayfield, so I don't know who I should start with. The guy who thinks it's a good move or the guy who is shitting on Baker Mayfield?
We could start with me. And I'll tell you what, I do believe it's a good move. I definitely was being rude to Baker on Twitter just to get some feelers out and see how people were feeling. But I genuinely was shocked at the closeted Baker truthers and how many there really are. Constantly all season, last year, all we saw was people constantly shitting on Baker Mayfield and how bad he was. Suddenly now he's traded to Carolina. And people are newfound Baker Mayfield stands. I understand it. Now this is the best quarterback situation that the Panthers have had since obviously Cam Newton was Superman and he was one of the best players in the National Football League. But Cam's days are done. Now you have Sam Darnold come in, and he's arguably, in my opinion, the worst quarterback in the NFL. So anything's better. You and I could have went in there, and maybe we would have been better. Obviously, I'm being rude and I'm using hyperbole. But truthfully, yes, anything would have been better. So, yes, I like this move, especially for a 5th-round pick. You do that in a heartbeat. If I was Seattle, I would have done that, if I'm being completely honest. I would have liked it a little bit more because DK and Tyler Lockett, that's exciting. But DJ Moore is no slouch by any means. Still a top 15 receiver at the absolute least at the wide receiver position. And I just don't know how much this really moves Carolina up for me at all. Maybe I had them at 4 wins, 3 wins prior to them acquiring Baker Mayfield. I added an extra 2-3 wins. We're going to talk about the Panthers later. Baker Mayfield is not bad. No, I definitely was being very rude to him on Twitter. But my tweet specifically, at Handrew5As, my tweet was specifically to DJ Moore, because when is DJ Moore going to get a consistent, reliable quarterback option?
He's a new Allen Robinson.
And that is so beautifully said. And why I feel like I need to say that is because Baker Mayfield had Odell Beckham Jr. in the prime of his career, and they couldn't make it work. Now, DJ Moore, where he is a prime talent in this league for sure, you can't sit here and tell me he's anywhere near what Odell was when he was with Baker at first.
The only difference is, there's a lot of differences, but the biggest difference, I think, is DJ Moore, at least from the outside looking in, like Odell has this big personality and persona that comes with him coming from New York to Cleveland, being known as one of the top receivers in the league, everyone expecting him and Baker to hit it off right away. While DJ Moore, while everyone thinks he's a really good receiver, he doesn't get that type of attention to be the superstar type top 5 receiver. So I don't think there's as much pressure on Baker to get him the looks and targets like he did with Odell.
But let me ask you this. Maybe it wasn't as big as Odell because Odell was global at that point. He made one of the best plays in NFL history with the catch over Brandon Carr. But let me ask you this. Don't you feel it was similar for Josh Allen when he acquired Stephon Diggs? Not to that magnitude, but you get Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen was a top 7 pick overall. It's not the same as being number 1. There's definitely some extra pressure there, no doubt. But Josh Allen was definitely getting some scrutiny, especially after losing to that Houston Texans team after being up 16-0. You get Stephon Diggs. There's expectation now. Josh Allen took that opportunity and absolutely ran with it and hasn't looked back since. I feel like I don't want to give Baker as much leeway to that. Where, yes, I understand Odell is a superstar, a megastar outside the sport itself. Like, even now where he hasn't been as relevant football-wise, even though last year, of course, he was a part of a Super Bowl winning team, but statistically over these last few years, he hasn't been as relevant. You still have to respect Odell in the game and outside of the game and what he means to just the mainstream and social media as a whole.
Yeah. He had a huge impact on kids, too.
So my whole point being is, I don't want to give Baker this pass just because of that, especially when I've seen an example already where there is pressure already put on a guy like Josh Allen. He completely took the opportunity and ran with it.
Odell's not Stephon Diggs. And at that point in time, Odell did get traded. He didn't get along with his quarterback. He called out his quarterback, Eli Manning, that same season. That led to ultimately him getting traded. And when he got to Cleveland his first year, despite Freddie Kitchens being a head coach, had 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns with Baker Mayfield in 16 games. The very next year, he gets hurt in Cleveland. And then Baker has a breakout year. He leads them to the playoffs. And now this past season, things didn't go so well, but Baker was hurt. He hurt his shoulder. It just didn't work out. Now, I don't think that's an indictment on Odell. I don't think that's an indictment on Baker Mayfield. I think there was something there that they just didn't get along.
So the 10-minute clip of Odell being completely missed, you're saying that's more, you're saying it's not an indictment on Odell, but it's not an indictment on Baker, even though there's a lot of footage to put a lot of blame on Baker.
No, I think there was a problem there with Baker and Odell. I think that they didn't get along, and that's why when he saw him open, he didn't want to throw him the ball. So
that makes no sense, though.
So I think there was something deeper going on there. I'm not going to speculate on it.
As a person, as a human being, would you do that?
Hell no.
It depends on what my relationship with you is.
So you hate me. Let's say you absolutely can't stand me.
I wouldn't throw you the ball.
We have the same end goal.
Nah. But then if that's the case, I don't want Baker on my team. He doesn't want to win.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
The same thing happened when Donovan McNabb and Terrell Owens.
And Terrell Owens, they still had success.
They had success, but
because there's something you have to put aside.
That relationship deteriorated, and towards the end of that tenure, McNabb was not throwing him the ball, and that's why that relationship ultimately deteriorated. So I think there was something deeper going on in Cleveland, but Stephon Diggs, I think he's shown consistently, one, he hasn't had the injuries Odell has had. Odell has 2 torn ACLs now, had an ankle injury.
I'm talking about when they first got there.
When it first happened, I don't think people viewed that in the same light as Diggs to Buffalo or Hopkins to Arizona.
Disagree wholeheartedly.
Bro, Odell was a top 5 receiver when he got traded.
I don't
they
think
were
so.
freaking out. Do you don't remember how much?
I remember vividly. I remember where
the
I was
hype
when he got traded.
The hype was crazy. Baker had just come
the
off.
hype for the Browns was crazy.
He
as
just
a
had
collective
he had a
roster.
record-breaking rookie season. You now acquire a top 5 receiver at the time.
Everyone was expecting Odell to do better than he did
because
in New
Eli
York.
was quote-unquote washed.
Yes.
No, but there was baggage that came with Odell, with this persona, that you question.
Can I tell you that, and really quick, just a sidetrack, the whole persona thing really aggravates me. Because when you are winning, right, and you have this crazy-ass intensity to you where you're freaking out when things aren't going your way, but you're winning, right? It's never an issue. It's only an issue when you're losing. Yeah. You realize that?
Of course.
Right? Because obviously
winning solves everything.
So what do you have to say about Odell in the playoffs not doing anything and getting shut down?
Don't disagree. I don't disagree. It's fine. Okay. That's fine because he
Stephon Diggs,
he put
Minnesota
Miracle.
He had a big time, one of the greatest players in NFL history.
Listen, no one here is trying to minimize Stephon Diggs.
I'm just saying that move to me is not similar.
That argument right there was, come on.
That move to me is not similar. That move to me is not similar.
Not correlated.
Odell came with more baggage than DeAndre Hopkins did when he went to Arizona, than Stephon Diggs did when he went to Buffalo. There was hype for it, but there was, at the time, at least when I remember
it's the media presence.
It was 50-50 at the time. There were 50% of people thinking the Browns are going to skyrocket and they're going to be great, and there was other people saying, nope, they're getting overhyped.
I feel like
that was when the move happened. When the move happened, the Browns in 2019, I felt like there was definitely 50-50 split on whether or not the Browns are going to work out. Because at that time, they did have a rookie head coach, Freddie Kitchens. They did have a bunch of personalities that didn't mix well together, that people questioned the move. Nobody thought it was a surefire Super Bowl guaranteed.
I think most people agreed with the move. Trade a first-round pick to get a top 5 receiver in the league, one of the most explosive receivers we've seen.
They also traded Kevin Zeitler and Jabril Peppers.
Yeah, they gave up a ton. But during the moment, Odell was viewed as a top 5 receiver. He was still super
I'm not talking
young,
about how he was viewed. We're talking about the Browns as a team. There was a split on how people thought they were going to be that season. Some people thought they were going to be really good. Some people didn't think they were going to be good.
All people have done is hype up the Cleveland Browns.
That's what it's been.
They've had a talented roster.
My point exactly.
Yeah.
Going now, into every season,
let's get off this topic. Let's talk about Baker to the Panthers because we're on this for a while now. Is this a good move for Carolina? Yes, in the moment. Does it fix their quarterback problem long term? It probably doesn't. because who knows who's going to be on the coaching staff. I think the Carolina Panthers are one of the more unstable situations in football. Since becoming the head coach of the Panthers, Matt Rule signed Teddy Bridgewater to be his franchise quarterback, traded him a year later. He trades for Sam Darnold. He then picks up Darnold's 5th-year option. He signs Matt Barkley. He signs Cam Newton. He benches Cam Newton. He cuts Barkley. He benches Sam Darnold. He now brings in PJ Walker to start. He now trades up in the draft to draft Matt Corral, which he traded more to draft Matt Corral than he did to acquire Baker Mayfield. And now you acquire Baker Mayfield. The Panthers have no plan. And in the last 3 years, they've had first-round picks, and they have not used one of these picks on a quarterback prospect. They could have drafted Justin Fields. They could have drafted Mac Jones. They didn't draft any of those guys. In this current draft, they could have drafted a quarterback higher, although this draft we know is a weak quarterback draft. But the point is that in the past 3 years, they drafted Derek Brown, a defensive tackle with a top 10 pick, J.C. Horn, and then and this past draft, I'm not going to mention it too much because it was warranted not getting a quarterback here. But you missed out on quarterback prospects because for what? For what? For drafting a tackle and a cornerback when you have a clear need at quarterback. But the difference with this move is that Baker's not Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was a scrub. He was garbage when he went to Carolina. People thought he was going to have this Ryan Tannehill-like revival to his career. I never bought into it. Sam Darnold was bad in New York for 3 years. I saw him get progressively worse. Whether or not you wanted to blame it on Adam Gase or not, I saw Ryan Tannehill succeed with Adam Gase and put at least good numbers. You could tell Sam Darnold was just not good. Cam Newton, did I have hope for him? Yes. But
it's Cam. I don't blame you.
Ultimately, he's washed. Cam Newton's washed.
It breaks
it's
my
as
heart.
simple as that.
Breaks my heart,
He's
Wayne.
not a good quarterback. And PJ Walker, XFL MVP, should have stayed in the minors because he's not built for the majors. When he got a chance to start, he wasn't very good. Baker's actually a good quarterback. Baker actually last year, after the 2020 season, people were talking about Baker as he might be borderline top 10 quarterback in the NFL. He had that good of a season last season in 2020.
I don't know.
In 2020.
Who?
Now, Baker
Who is saying
Mayfield.
this?
Now,
no clue.
Baker. Let me finish.
Who
Let me
are
finish.
these guys? Tell me who you could debate that Baker Mayfield was better than to put himself in the top 10 going into last year. Please.
I'm not debating it. I'm saying
my God.
there was arguments about it.
No.
I really don't think there were.
No.
Yeah, there were.
I
just read a Stephen Ruiz. Do you know who Stephen Ruiz is?
Yeah.
From The Ringer.
Yes.
You respect his
I've
writing,
heard of
right?
him. Uh-huh.
That was a sentence in his article.
A sentence?
Yes.
And what, from last year?
No, right now. He just dropped the Baker article. He talked about how after 2020, people were debating putting him top 10.
Did he have a link to the people? Or did he just also say, just like you did, he was top 10 going
Well, I
last
trust
year?
his word. Do you not trust Stephen Ruiz? He's one of the best
No,
football
all I'm
writers
saying-
right now in the game.
Of course he is. In all respect to
Okay.
Stephen Ruiz, but just because you say people are saying he's in
Okay,
top 10,
you are
that's
getting
a very-
fixated. You're getting fixated
Is that
on
wrong?
this
term.
point.
Is that wrong?
You're getting fixated on this point
Anyhow.
when the point of it is that Baker, when healthy, has thrown 53 touchdowns to 22 picks, 63% completion percentage, 94.8 passer rating, and a 17-12 record. Now, you go by his PFF grades throughout his career. His rookie season, he ranked 9th in terms of PFF grading. 2019, he was 10th. 2020, he was 13th. 2021, he was 30th. Looking at the trend of his grades, he used to work for PFF. You know, they're pretty reliable, I guess.
Sometimes.
Going from 9th, 10th to 13th to going to 30th means that something happened this year that threw off his game. Well, what can that be? Oh, maybe it was that he got injured. He tore his labrum. He had a knee injury. He gave his all to a franchise that threw him away like nothing and threw his name in the dirt on the way out by saying they needed an adult at quarterback and then traded for somebody who had a ton of lawsuits against him who now might not play the season, and they gave him $230 million guaranteed. And they're even talking about an indefinite suspension. That's the Cleveland Browns for you. That same dysfunctional Browns organization is what the Browns have always been until Baker got there. Because you know what? Baker Mayfield led this team to their first playoff appearance in 18 years, their first playoff win in 26 years. Now, when he's hurt, he's, according to PFF, one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. When he's healthy, according to PFF, he is a top 15 quarterback in the NFL. Now you have him in Carolina with an improved offensive line, Bradley Bozeman, Ike Ekwonu. You have Taylor Martin still there. Your offense, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson's going to learn to suck it up and play with Baker, and he's going to do just fine. Christian McCaffrey, Rashard Higgins has that connection with Baker. He's there now. He probably gets more snaps over Terrace Marshall, but even if you believe in Terrace Marshall.
Rashard Higgins and him had a connection.
They had
a connection.
Even if you believe in Terrace Marshall, Baker has some weapons. Now, for me, Baker Mayfield, his downfall this past season had to do with injury, and there's no doubt about it. Because before week 6, where he completely tore his labrum, he had a 22-5 passing touchdown to interception ratio, had a 106 passer rating in the 16 games prior to fracturing his shoulder in week 6 of this past season. Now, Baker should have been put on IR, but because he's a warrior, because he's somebody who has a strong mentality, he played through an injury, gave his all to a franchise that then spit him out like he did nothing for them. He put his career on the line. He put his money on the line by not sitting out. He probably lost over $100 million by that decision, by not just resting the season. He possibly lost that much money, all for a franchise that threw him away like nothing. Baker Mayfield will lead the Panthers to the playoffs before Deshaun Watson does with the Browns. I'm telling you, and they have a shot to make the playoffs this year. But even if you don't think so, next year, Tom Brady's retiring. The Saints still don't have a quarterback that you truly, really trust. The Falcons don't have a quarterback. Baker Mayfield is the second best quarterback in the NFC South. Next year, he could be the best. And the Browns with Deshaun Watson are going to be in a division with Joe Burrow, who Joe Burrow clears that Deshaun Watson guy. Lamar Jackson, MVP, he clears Deshaun Watson. And you have the Steelers, who have a roster that's just a quarterback away, but they have stability. The Browns will become, once again, a laughingstock without Baker Mayfield, because he's the one who restored life into that franchise. And when you take him out, you take away that life, and their heartbeat is gone without Baker.